The Great War between humans and the Varkai Empire had burned across the stars for 12 long years. Billions had died, planets turned to ash, and both sides had finally realized that victory would mean extinction. So, when the Varkai Queen offered peace, humanity listened. The terms were strange. The Queen demanded that a human representative marry her, a symbolic union that would bind their species in trust. No one knew why she asked for it, but she insisted it was the only way to heal the wound between stars. After months of debate, the Terran Council agreed. They needed peace more than pride, and so they chose him. He wasn't a general or a politician. He was a soldier, once part of the first assault on the Varkai world. He had seen the horror of war up close. Maybe that's why they chose him. He knew the cost of hate. His name was Elias Ward. When Elias first saw the Queen, she wasn't what he expected. The Varkai weren't monstrous as humans had painted them in war propaganda. They were tall, lithe, with skin that shimmered like obsidian glass under the light. Her crown wasn't made of gold, but bone and metal fused into her very skull, a mark of power among her kind. Her eyes glowed faintly violet, deep as the void between galaxies. Their marriage was held on the neutral world of Carthus Prime. Every corner of the galaxy watched the ceremony through live broadcast, humans holding their breath, aliens clicking their mandibles, wondering if peace was truly possible. When Elias placed the ring on her clawed hand, he whispered quietly, "For peace." She replied in her strange melodic tone, "For survival." The ceremony ended with thunderous silence. The universe shifted that day. Enemies became family. Their life together was complicated. The Queen, whose name was Kareth, ruled her empire with calm authority. Elias was given the title Consort of Unity, a position that sounded ceremonial but carried real power. Many of the Varkai despised him. To them, he was a primitive mammal, a symbol of their shame and defeat. Elias felt it every day. The stares, the whispers, the silent anger that pulsed through the palace corridors. But he endured it. He spent hours studying their culture, their language, their art. He trained his mind to understand them, not as enemies, but as people. Kareth noticed his effort. She admired his patience. She even began to trust him, something no human had ever earned before. One night, while overlooking the crimson skies of her world, Kareth asked him softly, "Do you hate us still, human?" Elias thought for a long moment. Then he said, "I hated what war made us become, not who you are." It was a simple answer, but it changed everything. From that day, Kareth began inviting him to her war councils. She listened to his advice. He spoke about unity, about shared purpose. Slowly, the empire started to soften. Human traders were allowed in Varkai space. Treaties were signed. The impossible began to happen. Peace was working, or so everyone believed. But deep in the Varkai military, not everyone was loyal. The old generals whispered of betrayal. They hated the Queen for marrying the enemy. They saw Elias as a disease, a human corrupting their sacred rule. They began to plan, quietly, carefully. And one night, while the Queen slept beside Elias, a shadow moved across the palace, silent as a ghost. Elias woke to the faint hum of energy weapons. Instincts honed by war took over. He rolled off the bed just as a plasma bolt scorched the air where his head had been. Kareth rose, her eyes burning bright violet, armor forming across her skin like liquid metal. "Assassins," she hissed. They fought together, human reflexes and alien strength moving as one. Elias grabbed a fallen guard's rifle, taking precise shots. Kareth's claws sliced through armor. The room filled with chaos and fire. When it was over, 6 Varkai soldiers lay dead on the marble floor, their insignia marked with the old royal crest, long band. Kareth stared at them, her voice trembling with fury. "They were mine once," she whispered. "My own elite guard." Elias breathed heavily. "Then this isn't just peace they want to destroy. It's you." For the first time, the queen looked afraid. And for the first time, Elias felt something strange in his chest. Not just duty, not just alliance, but something closer to loyalty. Maybe even love. He reached out, placing his hand gently on hers. "We'll find who did this," he said, "and we'll stop them." Kareth nodded slowly. Together. But outside the palace, among the shattered stars, a storm was rising, one that would test that fragile word together more than either of them could imagine. For days after the attack, the palace stayed under heavy guard. The twin moons of Varkai hung above the capital like pale eyes, watching everything in silence. Rumors spread through the corridors like fire. Some said the assassins were rebels. Others whispered that the queen had lost control of her own people. Elias stayed close to Kareth, though she spoke little. He could see the weight on her shoulders, the burden of a ruler whose people no longer trusted her. Finally, one evening, she summoned him to the throne chamber. It was empty except for them. The high obsidian walls shimmered faintly with energy. Her crown glowed in the dim light. "Elias," she began softly, "there is something you must know, something I kept hidden, even from the council." He frowned. "Hidden from your own empire?" She nodded. "Yes, because it was too dangerous." Then she pressed her hand against a panel on her throne. The floor opened, revealing a spiral staircase descending deep beneath the palace. Without another word, she began walking down. Elias followed. The air grew colder as they descended. The walls changed from polished metal to raw stone, ancient, carved with symbols that pulsed with faint blue light. At the bottom lay a massive circular chamber. In its center stood a machine, half alive, half mechanical. Thick cables ran from it into the ground like roots. Its surface pulsed with slow, rhythmic light, almost like breathing. Elias stared, stunned. "What is that?" Kareth's voice was low, almost reverent. "The Heart of Varkai. Our oldest secret. It is a living weapon, built before our empire even had a name." She walked closer, her reflection dancing across the machine's dark metal. "It was created to defend our people from extinction. It draws power from life itself. It chooses one host, one mind strong enough to wield it. In the wrong hands, it could burn a world to dust." Elias took a slow step forward. "And you've kept this hidden all along?" "Yes," she said. "Because to activate it, a living being must bond with it completely. Their body becomes the weapon. Their soul becomes the power source. It is irreversible." He stared at the faint blue glow, feeling its pulse vibrate through his bones. "You think the rebels want this?" Kareth nodded. "They believe that if they awaken the heart, they can restore the old empire, the war empire. They would destroy your kind and perhaps mine as well." Elias looked at her. "Then we stop them." Kareth smiled sadly. "You speak as if it were easy." "I fought worse odds," he said. She tilted her head slightly, almost amused. "You are bold, human," he shrugged. "You married me for peace. Maybe boldness is what peace needs." That made her laugh. The first real laugh he'd heard from her since the attack. It echoed softly through the ancient chamber, light and strange. But the laughter faded when the heart's glow suddenly brightened. A hum filled the air, low and rising like a storm about to break. Elias stepped back, his instincts screaming. The machine was reacting to him. Kareth's eyes widened. "It recognizes you." "What?" Elias asked, startled. She stepped closer, scanning the glowing runes. "This shouldn't be possible. The heart only reacts to Varkai blood. And yet—" The light flared again, this time touching Elias's chest with a beam of energy. He gasped as a surge of warmth flooded through him. Not pain, but a rush of raw, living power. Visions flashed through his mind. Alien worlds burning, armies kneeling, the queen standing over a field of light. Kareth reached out and pulled him back. The light snapped away. "Enough," she commanded, and the heart fell silent. Elias collapsed to one knee, panting. What was that?" Kareth's expression was unreadable. "It reached for you. It saw something in you." He rubbed his chest where a faint blue mark now glowed just beneath the skin. "It saw me? I'm not one of you." "Perhaps," she whispered. "It does not care." They stared at each other in the flickering light of the chamber. For the first time, Kareth's composure broke, fear and wonder mixing in her eyes. "This changes everything," she said quietly. "If the heart has chosen you, Elias, then the war may not be over. It may only be waiting. He stood slowly, meeting her gaze. Then let's make sure it waits forever. She looked at him, really looked, and something deep inside her stirred. He was human, fragile, mortal, yet the heart of her ancestors had called to him. Maybe peace had not chosen her alone. Maybe it had chosen them. 3 days after the heart reacted to Elias, the Varkai capital began to tremble under whispers of revolt. It started small. Strange disappearances among the palace guard, encrypted signals from abandoned war stations, stolen transport ships vanishing into the void. Kareth's council tried to reassure her. Minor unrest, they said. But she knew better. The old empire was waking. Elias could feel the tension in the air every time he walked the palace halls. The servants avoided his gaze. Soldiers saluted with clenched jaws. Even the air smelled different, sharper, colder, like the calm before a storm. Kareth rarely slept. She spent nights in her war chamber, standing before a massive holographic star map filled with red blips, the rebel fleet spreading like infection across the rim systems. Elias stood behind her one night, watching the lights pulse.
How many?
He asked. She didn't look at him. Too many. The generals call themselves the Bloodborne Circle. They believe peace has made us weak. He crossed his arms. And you think they're after the heart? I don't think, she said grimly. I know. The moment they learn it responded to you, they'll come. Elias felt that faint glow on his chest again, the mark the heart had left. Sometimes it pulsed when he slept. Sometimes it whispered in sounds he didn't quite understand, like it was waiting, watching. Kareth turned to him suddenly. You haven't told anyone what happened below the palace, have you? He shook his head. No, not even your guards. Good, she said. If they knew, they'd tear this world apart to get to you. He gave a half smile. So, what do we do now? She looked at him for a long moment, then said, We prepare for war. The one we swore we'd never fight again. By dawn, the first strike came. From orbit, a massive energy blast hit the eastern defense ring. The impact lit the sky blood red. The rebels had arrived. Alarms screamed through the city. The sound of gunfire and explosions echoed across the horizon. Varkai fighter craft launched in swarms, streaking blue trails through the clouds. Elias grabbed his old combat armor, still scuffed from the last human war, and ran toward the command deck. Kareth was already there, issuing orders in her sharp, commanding voice. Her generals obeyed instantly, their fear swallowed by her presence. When she saw Elias, her eyes softened for just a second. You shouldn't be here, he smiled tightly. You married a soldier. You knew this was part of the deal. Before she could argue, a massive explosion shook the room. The main defense grid had been breached. The rebels were landing. Kareth's guards formed a perimeter around her.
Get the queen to safety,
one shouted. But Kareth raised her hand. No, I will not hide while my people bleed. The guards hesitated, torn between duty and fear. Elias stepped forward. Then I'll stay with you. She looked at him, really looked, and nodded once. Then fight with me, human. They moved through the palace as chaos erupted outside. Massive airships loomed overhead, raining fire. Streets once filled with light were now burning fields of smoke. Everywhere the Varkai fought, but the rebels were relentless, their armor marked with crimson sigils of the old regime. In the grand courtyard, Kareth and Elias found themselves surrounded. Dozens of rebel soldiers advanced through the haze. Their commander stepped forward, an ancient Varkai general with silver skin and cold red eyes. His voice was like grinding metal. You betrayed our blood, he said to Kareth. You let the humans infect our throne. Kareth stood tall. I saved us from extinction, the general sneered. And for that you'll die as a traitor. He raised his weapon. Before he could fire, Elias moved, his instincts faster than thought. He shoved Kareth aside and raised his arm to block the blast. But instead of pain, a pulse of blue energy exploded from his body, the heart's mark burning like fire on his chest. The energy rippled outward, slamming the attackers back as if a storm had burst from the ground. Every light around them flickered. The sky itself trembled. Elias gasped, staring at his hands and glowing faintly with the same blue fire he'd seen in the chamber below. Kareth's eyes widened. It's happening, she whispered. The general struggled to his feet, shocked but furious. What are you? Elias looked at him, voice low, steady. Human. Then he charged. The battle that followed was chaos, pure, violent light and sound. Elias moved with impossible speed, the heart guiding him. He could see enemy movements before they happened. Energy blasts curved away from him like water. Every strike he made left trails of blue flame in the air. Kareth fought beside him, her claws flashing, her armor alive with shifting light. Together they cut through the rebels like a storm tearing through glass. When the dust settled, the courtyard was silent. The general lay broken, his weapon shattered. Elias fell to one knee, breathing hard, his hands trembling. The glow faded slowly from his chest. Kareth approached, kneeling beside him. "The heart has chosen you," she said quietly. "You are its host now." He looked up, eyes still glowing faintly blue. "Then we'll use it to stop this war, before it burns the galaxy again." Kareth nodded, her face calm but her voice full of dread. "You don't understand, Elias. The heart doesn't just choose a host. It consumes one." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" She looked away, her voice barely a whisper. "If you keep using it, it will take your life to save ours." The fires of rebellion still burned across the capital, but the first wave was broken. The blood-born fleet retreated to the outer moons, leaving behind only destruction and fear. The Queen's banner still flew, but victory came with a shadow. Elias had not woken for 2 days. He lay in the royal infirmary, surrounded by glowing medical fields and soft blue light. The mark of the heart still pulsed faintly on his chest, like a heartbeat not his own. His skin was pale, his breathing uneven. Kareth stood beside him, silent. The medics kept their distance. None dared speak to her. For 2 nights she had not moved from that spot. Finally, her advisor, a silver-robed elder, spoke gently. "My queen, the council demands your presence." The rebels regroup. "We cannot delay decisions." Kareth didn't look up. "Tell the council the queen will return when her consort breathes again." The elder bowed and left. She reached out, brushing her hand against Elias's arm. His body felt warm, but the warmth came from inside, from the same blue light she had once feared. When she closed her eyes, she could still see it. The image of him in the courtyard, standing amid flames, his body shining like a living weapon. The heart had truly chosen him. And now it was killing him. Hours later, Elias finally stirred. His eyes opened slowly, blue glow fading to gray. His voice was hoarse. "How long? Was I out?" Kareth's relief was quiet but deep. 2 days. "You frightened an empire," he smiled faintly. "Not the first time." She gave a soft laugh, then her expression turned serious. "Elias, the heart, it's feeding on you. Every time you use its power, it takes from your life. Do you understand?" He looked at her, calm despite her words. "So it's like a trade?" "Yes," she said. "A terrible one." He sat up slowly, wincing. "Then we'll find another way to stop the rebels." But she shook her head. "There is no other way. The Bloodborne have rearmed their fleets. They're building weapons from the old era. Even I can't match their strength." He frowned. "Then they'll come for me." Kareth hesitated. "They already are." That night the palace was quiet, but tension hung like a blade in the air. Kareth led Elias to her private observatory, a massive dome of crystal overlooking the endless stars. Outside, the remains of her fleet orbited the planet, dark shapes moving like ghosts. Elias stood beside her, hands in his pockets, watching distant flashes of war still burning on the horizon. "I used to think peace meant silence," he said softly, "but it never is. It's just..." The pause between storms, Kareth turned to him. "You sound like a ruler." He smiled faintly. "No, just a soldier who's seen what happens when rulers forget what people die for." She studied him for a long moment. This fragile human who had walked into her world, her throne, her life. In his eyes she saw courage, pain, and something she'd never seen in her own kind. Mercy. "The heart chose you for a reason," she whispered. "Maybe it saw what I could not." He looked at her. "Maybe it chose both of us, but peace wouldn't last." By dawn, the second attack began. This time it wasn't the outer defenses. It was the palace itself. Explosions rocked the city. Kareth's guards shouted warnings. A blast tore through the southern tower, throwing smoke and fire into the sky. Kareth's eyes widened. "They've breached the shield." Elias grabbed his weapon, already moving. "Then it's time to finish this." She grabbed his arm. "No, if you use the heart again, it might kill you." He met her gaze. If I don't, it'll kill everyone else. Before she could answer, the blast doors shattered and rebel soldiers poured into the corridor. Elias stepped forward, blue light already flickering beneath his skin. His pulse synced with the rhythmic hum of the heart buried beneath the palace. Every shot that hit him scattered like sparks. Every strike he made rippled through the air like thunder. Kareth watched in awe and terror. He wasn't fighting with the heart anymore. He was becoming it. When the last rebel fell, Elias dropped to one knee, coughing, blood on his lips. The glow dimmed and he swayed like a dying flame. Kareth rushed to him, holding him upright. "Stop, you'll burn yourself away." He forced a weak smile. "Guess. I was never good at stopping." She gripped his face, desperate. "You are human. You cannot carry the heart's fire." He looked up at her, his voice quiet but firm. "Then teach me how to control it, before it controls me." For a long moment she said nothing. Then her expression hardened with resolve. "There is one way. The heart's core can be balanced by a second link and a shared connection." Elias blinked. "You mean you?" "Yes," she said. "If I link my life to yours, it will stabilize the energy. But it will also bind us completely. If one dies, so does the other." Elias stared at her, silent. The room seemed to fade away. Only her eyes, violet and endless, remained. He finally said, "Then we live, or die, together." Kareth hesitated, then nodded. "So be it." They clasped hands and the blue mark on his chest flared, mirrored by a violet light glowing on hers. Energy swirled between them, bright and alive, weaving their hearts into one. The heart of Varkai pulsed below, responding to their unity. Its power surged, not wild, not consuming, but steady, balanced, whole. Kareth looked at him, breathless. It worked. Elias smiled faintly, the blue fire flickering gently in his eyes. "Then let's show them what peace really means." Outside, the war raged on. But for the first time, the galaxy had a weapon born not of fear, but of love. The link between Elias and Kareth changed everything. When they stood together, the air itself seemed to bend. The blue and violet energy that once burned uncontrollably now moved in perfect rhythm, calm, focused, alive. Across the palace, the Varkai could feel it. The tremors stopped. The sky brightened. Even the heart beneath the capital pulsed with new life, steady and strong. No longer a weapon of destruction, but something else. Something balanced. Elias could sense Kareth's presence inside his mind. Not his words, but his feelings. Calm, strength, and an ancient sorrow that she had carried for centuries. And she could feel him too. The stubborn human will that refused to die, the warmth of defiance that no empire could break. The link was more than power. It was understanding. By dawn, the rebel fleet returned. Larger, stronger, burning through the sky like a swarm of comets. The bloodborne circle had united under one final banner. They came to destroy the queen, the human plague, and reclaim the heart. Kareth stood beside Elias in the command tower, armored in living metal that shimmered violet with streaks of blue. He wore his old combat armor, now laced with glowing veins of light, half human steel, half alien power. "Are you ready?" she asked. Elias smiled faintly. "Do I have a choice?" Her lips curved slightly. "No, not anymore." The battle began. From orbit, the rebel ships unleashed plasma storms that burned the upper atmosphere. Kareth's loyal fleet rose to meet them. A vast wave of silver warships shaped like blades of light. The sky became a sea of fire. Inside the palace, the heart's power flowed through the ground like veins of lightning. Elias and Kareth walked side by side through the chaos, every step leaving trails of energy behind them. When enemy troops breached the city gates, they didn't flee. They advanced. A rebel mech towering 30 feet tall crashed through the plaza. Its cannons charged, glowing red. Elias raised his hand instinctively, and the energy obeyed. The cannon blast stopped midair, frozen like glass. With emotion, he reversed it, sending the blast back into the mech, tearing it apart in a storm of blue fire. The Varkai soldiers cheered, voices echoing through the ruins. Kareth turned to him. "You're learning," he grinned. "Good teacher." But beneath the power, something else stirred, a faint ache in his chest, deeper than pain. The mark of the heart burned brighter with every strike. Kareth felt it too. Their bond made his pain hers. Every time he drew on the heart, her strength dimmed slightly, They said nothing. They couldn't afford to. Hours passed like seconds. The battle spread to the upper atmosphere. Whole ships shattered in orbit, raining molten debris. From above, the capital looked like a dying star, glowing, flickering, but still burning. Then the signal came. The blood-borne flagship had arrived, the Crimson Ascendant, the largest warship ever built by the old empire. Its shadow covered the city, blotting out the light. Kareth's eyes narrowed. That ship carries the Circle's leaders. Elias clenched his fists. Then let's end this. She hesitated. If we strike them directly, we'll need to channel the Heart's full energy. He understood what that meant and nodded anyway. Let's finish what they started. They joined hands once more and the Heart answered. A pulse of blue-violet energy surged through the planet, shaking the sky. Their forms began to glow, light weaving around their armor like living fire. To the people below, they looked like twin comets ascending into the heavens. In orbit, the Crimson Ascendant opened fire, beams of crimson light powerful enough to slice a mountain in half. But the beams met their combined shield and then shattered. Elias and Kareth moved as one, their bond flowing like music. Each thought shared, each heartbeat synchronized. They were more than soldier and queen now. They were one will, one force. Elias reached forward, channeling everything the Heart gave. The power roared through him, immense, beautiful, terrible. A beam of pure energy shot from his hands, cutting through the flagship's shields like paper. Kareth followed, focusing her own strength, her voice echoing across space through the comms. Heard by every Varkai and every human ship. For too long we have let the past define us. Today we write a new one. Their combined strike hit the Crimson Ascendant's core. The rebel ship split apart, erupting in a wave of violet fire that lit up the entire system. The battle was over. The old empire ended. But victory came with silence. Elias drifted slowly downward, the glow fading. His armor flickered, the energy draining from his body. Kareth caught him midair, landing gently on the palace terrace. He was pale. Too pale. Elias, she shouted, shaking him. Stay with me. He tried to smile. We did it? The blue mark on his chest dimmed to a faint shimmer. I can't feel the heart anymore. Kareth's voice broke. Because it's returning to sleep. You gave it everything. He looked up at her, his eyes gray now, tired but peaceful. Guess it wanted peace too. Kareth held him close, tears tracing down her obsidian skin, glowing faintly in the dim light. The link between them pulsed once more, a heartbeat shared, and then fell still. No, she whispered. You are not done yet. She pressed her forehead to his, closing her eyes. The heart beneath the palace glowed faintly as if listening. Kareth whispered a single command in the ancient tongue of her ancestors. Divide not. Let our souls remain one. And the heart obeyed. The world was quiet after the war. Ash still fell from the sky, but it was soft now like snow. The fires had gone out. The rebels were gone. Only silence remained. The kind that comes after something far greater than victory. Kareth sat beside Elias on the terrace of the shattered palace. His body was still resting in her arms, the faint glow of the heart fading from his chest. Beneath them, the capital lay in ruins, but alive. The people were rebuilding already, moving among the wreckage with the slow, uncertain hope of survivors. He had given them peace, but at the cost of himself. Kareth brushed a strand of ash from his face. You foolish, beautiful human, she whispered. You were never meant to bear the heart's fire. Her voice trembled, a sound no one in her empire had ever heard from their queen. Inside her mind, she could still feel a thread of him, weak, flickering, but there. The link they had forged wasn't completely gone. And if the link lived, then so did he. She stood slowly, lifting him in her arms. The soldiers who saw her fall to one knee as she passed did not speak. They understood. The queen was walking into the depths again. Deep below the palace, the Heart of Varkai pulsed in the dark. Its surface was cracked from the battle, the blue light within now dim, almost tired. Kareth placed Elias on the altar at its base. You chose him, she said softly to the great machine. You made him your vessel, but I will not let you take his life. The heart responded with a low hum as if in warning. Its light flared, illuminating the chamber. Symbols ignited on the walls, ancient runes of balance and unity. Kareth spread her hands, violet energy swirling around her. You said our souls were one. Then take mine instead. The heart's voice came not in words but in thought. 1,000 memories, 1,000 echoes of those who had wielded it before. One cannot live where two are bound. The power must rest in one vessel. She looked down at Elias, his quiet face, his scarred hands. Then let it rest in me. Give him back. The light brightened, the ground trembling beneath her feet. Energy arced between them, blue and violet twisting together. Kareth closed her eyes and stepped forward, letting the current swallow her whole. Pain tore through her, not physical, but deeper, a ripping of essence. The heart drew from her everything she was, her strength, her memories, her centuries of rule. Images flooded her mind. The first war, the rise of her empire, the endless loneliness of command. And then something else, Elias's voice. Kareth! Stop, please! Her eyes snapped open. Elias was awake. He struggled to sit, reaching toward her. The light between them grew blinding. You shouldn't have done this, he said weakly. She smiled through tears. I had to. The heart takes life, but it can also give. It only needed a choice. He shook his head. Not yours. He tried to stand, but the energy held him down. The heart pulsed faster now, as if feeding on their emotions. Kareth's voice grew faint. Listen to me, Elias. You gave my people a chance to live. You gave me something no crown ever could. Let me return it. He reached out again, fingers almost touching hers. Kareth! The light surged. Every circuit in the chamber glowed white. The walls split with energy. The heart's pulse roared like thunder, and then silence. When the light faded, Elias lay alone on the altar. His body glowed faintly, but the mark on his chest was gone. He sat up slowly, dizzy, breathing hard. Kareth? No answer. He looked around. The heart stood still, dark now, silent for the first time in ages. Then he saw her standing nearby, or not quite. Her form shimmered like glass, faint and translucent. The violet crown on her head glowed gently. She smiled at him, soft and calm. It worked, she whispered. He took a step forward, confused. You're not alive? She finished for him. Not as before. The heart needed balance. I became its keeper, not its slave. He reached toward her, but his hand passed through. I don't understand, he said. You will, she replied. The heart is no longer a weapon. It will protect this world, not destroy it. You carry a piece of it now, a spark. That spark is enough to keep peace alive. He looked down at his hands. A faint blue shimmer pulsed beneath his skin. She stepped closer, though he could no longer feel her touch. You gave me hope. That was more than I ever gave anyone. Kareth. His voice broke. Don't go. Her image flickered gently. I am not gone. I am the heart now. Wherever it beats, I will be there. When you speak of peace, I will hear it. He nodded slowly, eyes wet. Then I'll make sure it never goes silent. She smiled, the kind of smile that carried both sorrow and pride. Goodbye, Elias Ward, she whispered. Human of the heart. Her form faded into light, merging with the ancient machine until only silence remained. Elias stood alone for a long time, listening to the faint hum in the walls. Then he turned and walked back toward the surface, each step echoing softly. Above him, dawn broke over Varkai, the first dawn in centuries without war. The people would later call that day the binding of two hearts. But for Elias, it was something simpler. It was the day he learned that sometimes peace doesn't come from power. It comes from the price someone is willing to pay for it. 10 years passed. The scars of war faded from the red deserts of Varkai, replaced by cities of glass and green light. The twin moons shone brighter now, reflected in new rivers cut by rebuilt canals. For the first time in living memory, there were no borders in the sky. Human and Varkai ships shared the same lanes, their banners woven together, two emblems joined by a single circle of light. They called it the Union Accord, and at its heart stood the man who had once been the Queen's weapon, Elias Ward. He lived quietly near the capital's edge, in a small home of stone and metal that overlooked the plains. He kept no guards, no titles. Children, both human and Varkai, often visited his garden to hear stories. He never spoke of the war directly. Instead, he told them about stars that once burned too brightly and hearts that learned to rest. Some nights, when the sky turned violet, He would walk to the ruins of the old palace. There, beneath the cracked crystal ceiling, the heart of Varkai still pulsed faintly underground, calm, slow, alive. When he stood near it, he could sometimes feel her presence. Not in words, but in warmth, like a memory wrapped in light. It was enough. One evening, the small girl approached him as he watched the sunset. She was half Varkai, her skin faintly luminous, her eyes gray like a storm. "Are the stories true?" she asked. "That the queen gave her soul to save us?" Elias smiled. "They're true enough. Do you miss her?" He looked at the horizon where the twin moons rose side by side. "Every day," he said softly. "But she's not gone. None of what we build now would exist without her." The girl tilted her head. "Mama says the heart still watches us." He nodded. "It does, she does," the girl hesitated. "Sometimes I dream about a voice. It calls my name." Elias turned toward her, his old soldier's instincts stirring, but the look in her eyes stopped him. There was no fear there. "Only peace. What does the voice say?" he asked. She smiled. "It says, 'Do not be afraid of your light.'" He froze. That was something Kareth used to tell him. The faint blue glow returned to his hands for the first time in years. The heart was stirring again, but not in violence. In awakening. Word spread quickly across the Union. Children born after the peace and hybrids of human and Varkai began to show strange signs: glowing eyes, heightened senses, an ability to feel emotion through touch. The scholars called it resonance. The elders called it the Queen's gift. Elias watched with both pride and worry. He knew power could twist even the purest heart. But the new generation seemed different. Calm, connected, less divided by fear. They didn't see two species. They saw one people, and in that he finally saw what Kareth had dreamed of. Not peace written by treaties, but peace written into blood itself. Years turned to decades. Elias grew old, his hair silver, his voice rough with time. The glow in his chest never fully vanished, but it no longer burned. It beat slowly, gently, like the quiet breath of the heart itself. One final evening he returned to the chamber beneath the palace. The corridors were quiet, lined with vines and faint lights. The heart waited where it always had, its surface smooth, humming softly. He placed his hand on the warm metal. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "They live, they grow. They remember you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber filled with a low, familiar voice, gentle as a sigh. "And you kept me." He smiled, tears in his eyes. "Always." Light spread from the heart, wrapping around him in soft blue and violet streams. He didn't resist. He simply closed his eyes and let it carry him. When the light faded, the chamber was empty. The mark on the heart glowed brighter than ever, a perfect circle of two colors joined in balance. Centuries later, the Union still stood. The story of the human consort and the Queen of Varkai became legend, told to every child under 2 moons. Statues of them stood side by side in the capital's center, not as gods, but as symbols of what 2 hearts could do when they refused to hate. And deep beneath the palace, the heart still pulsed, its rhythm eternal, gentle, unending. Sometimes when the world was silent, one could hear 2 voices in its hum. One was calm and royal, the other human and steady together. They whispered the same words they had spoken long ago, before all the wars, before the power, before the peace, for survival. And the galaxy listened,